Welcome to the Gaming Coop, the best space to talk about lemons. Let's introduce today's players. Player 1 will not end our journey to provide hashtag ribs for Remy. It's Matt. Player 2 has a Wii remote and he's not afraid to use it. Oh god, somebody stop him. It's Walsh.
What?
Here's some fun facts about Player 3. He is a very kind character and greets everyone he meets with a cheerful, positive attitude. Sometimes he can change shape into awesome things like a tank, submarine, and even a rocket. This helps him take on bad guys with different types of attacks, such as firing missiles and torpedoes. It's Gabe.
Nice.
Huh.
Player 4. On the contrary, I am possibly more or less not definitely rejecting the idea that in no way with any amount of uncertainty that I undeniably do or do not know where he shouldn't probably be, if that indeed wasn't where he isn't, even if he wasn't at where I knew he was, that'd mean I'd really have to know where he wasn't. It's Anthony.
Indubitably.
That's a fucking Shrek 3 reference.
Oh
The
no.
only good joke in Shrek 3.
Player 5. At last, one of us is going to talk about Hamtaro after so many eons. It's Kelsey. And finally, rumor has it, Player 6 came home smelling of garlic the other night, but he doesn't kiss and tell. It's Chris.
Oh.
I'm not telling. You know.
Or should you?
Anyways, hello everyone. Welcome to this February edition of the Coop, February 2023 edition. It's the only hear this. This is exclusive. This is the only February 2023 episode of the Gaming Coop.
Hell yeah.
Whoa.
It's the only one.
Whoa, this
The only
now
one.
feels so much more special than it ever did.
Yeah, 100%, absolutely. And so today we're going to talk about villains. All right, we're talking those evil doers, those rootin' tootin', ready to fuck up your shooting bad guys that we all know and love in all of these video games that we play. And so to start us off, we're talking about villains of our favorite games, and of course we all know that Mr. Matt loves himself some Final Fantasy 14.
I thought you were going to say, we
Final
all
Fantasy-
know he loves himself.
well, I hope he does.
Love yourself. Love yourself.
Exactly.
Matt and I also love a good villain.
Yes.
Yes.
That's
Exactly.
something that's
And a good villain in Final Fantasy 14. And correct me with my pronunciation here, because I sometimes feel like I don't know. Is it Emet-Selch?
It's Emet-Selch with a K.
Selch. Okay. Emet-Selch is a good villain in Final Fantasy 14, and Matt, you're going to tell us about him.
Not only is Emet-Selch a great villain, he is, in my opinion, the greatest villain ever written in any sort of media.
oh wow.
Oh,
That's
wow.
And I am-
that's wow.
It is high praise.
This
but
is why you're going first.
This is why I'm going first, right? So, my segment will be spoiling the entirety of Final Fantasy XIV Shadowbringers and everything up until it. So, if you are playing Final Fantasy or have any desire to, you may want to skip ahead
Goodbye.
past my segment. All right, so Emet-Selch is he is, and you can probably look up a picture of him anything you Google. He shows up kind of as just like a kind of a background figure. He's one of the Asians, who are a group of people who are kind of like putting forward a lot of the bad stuff that's happening in the story. They're this ancient group of people. There's three of them, and they have like these immortal, fantastical powers that are kind of like beyond comprehension a lot of times. He is one of them, along with two others, but he is the main one that we're going to focus on. Because Emet-Selch is so fascinating in how he is written as a villain, even for like JRPG standards. Obviously, characters are very important for very story-driven games, but he goes above and beyond a lot of normal conventional villain stuff because he doesn't necessarily come off. He comes off as one for sure, but he's not the main focus of being the villain of Shadowbringers. That's another dude. who I'm not really going to talk about today, but Emet-Selch is kind of like behind the scenes of a lot of the bad stuff that's happening. He even once he realizes that you are where you are specifically you are, and this is going to sound extremely convoluted, so bear with me. Shadowbringers takes place in basically like an alternate version, an alternate dimension of the world that you are from. Because Emet-Selch okay. I should have like thought out my thought process a little bit more on how I wanted to say that.
It's okay.
Say this. So the ultimate theme of Final Fantasy XIV is that the world that you are from is called the Source, and a long time ago, Emet-Selch and a bunch of others were and the Ascians were part of what are called the Ancients. They were part of this fantastical society of great technological advancement, magic use, basically like the ideal society that you would expect. However, their society came under attack, and their and this is all stuff that you learn throughout Shadowbringers and from him, but their society came under attack by this thing called the Final Days, which was a cataclysmic event. The Ancients, and Emet-Selch being one of them, decided that they had to summon an ancient being known as Zodiarch in order to protect their planet. However, in the process, in order to do that, they had to sacrifice half of all living beings on the planet in order to summon him. Like, they needed that much life force, that much life energy in order for it to happen. As a result, he lost a lot of very close friends, and but was still resolute that was the right thing to do. At one point, too, to prevent more disaster from happening, another primal known as Heidelin was summoned, and what she ended up doing was what's called sundering the world, or splitting it into 14 different pieces. Emet-Selch was one of those people who escaped the sundering. Every single other being that was alive then was split into 14 parts, including you. You as the main character, the Warrior of Light, were one of the ancients, and you are part of that soul from the ancient times. So Emet-Selch, being a complete soul, essentially, it has this like immense power. His goal is he is aiming to rejoin all of the shards, all of the reflections of the Source, the main world, back into the Source. So the world that you are in is very similar to the world that you're from, but it is splintered off of it. As Emet-Selch accompanies you, or not accompanies you, but he shows up at points throughout your journey, and he has this just extremely smug sense of charisma. He's extremely smug. He is oozing charisma. He is the embodiment of like just pure charm. And however, he's very dry. And the very important thing is he never lies, which is very important, I think, for a character. Like, he is trying to get his way, and he even says, "I will let you do what you can to try to stop all this from happening. I will let you try to do it, because I believe that you can help me achieve my goal in bringing this event that I want of rejoining this shard to the Source to happen." He is completely honest, and he will let you try to achieve your goal, and he will not stop you. However, you do stop him. But the thing that's extremely cool about him is that he has gone for thousands of things, thousands of years trying to like achieve this goal. Because in his mind, the one thing that's important to him is, I need to restore what my life was. The tragedy that happened to me in the past was it was cataclysmic. It was the apocalypse. like not just like a romanticization of the word. Like it was the literal apocalypse. Everyone he knew, his closest friends, are no longer, and he is so hell bent on restoring it. And the greatest part about it is that like he's the type of villain with the motivation that you absolutely understand, and you understand where he is coming from, but it is impossible to agree with it, and you know that you need to stop it. I linked an animation with a speech about how he's lived thousands and thousands of our lives, and how much he has done to try to achieve his goal, and how much his life is affected by all this. And despite all this, and I am leaving a ton out, of course, because this is I could spend the whole hour on him, and or 2 hours on him, and I don't want to do that. But he is he is just so compelling, and he is so much like, even playing into like the idea of expectations that Shadowbringers has. He expects you to defeat all of the things that are causing Ron in the place that you're in. And when you can't quite do it, he's disappointed in you, and he gives you like a little bit of a way out. You meet him a little bit later in like the final boss area, this in Amarat, which is a city from the ancient world that he recreated because he was so nostalgic for it, and in his like actual size, the ancients are giant compared to all the player characters. But it's this giant city, and it's so serene for that to be like the final area of an expansion and of a story like this, because it really just gets you into that like driven by nostalgia, overwhelming nostalgia mindset that he has, and it's wild to look at that way. And then after the boss battle, after you pour everything that you have into him, you need like another part of your soul to be rejoined, which is a whole other thing. You need all of your friends. You need 7 other heroes like you, and you need this special material. Once all of that finally is laid on him, there's that second video that I remember looking at. You get this amazing shot where the axe that you defeated him with is laying on the ground, and then the camera zooms out and you see the hole in his body that the axe went through. And he just said, he looks at you and he says these lines: remember us. Remember that we once lived. And you give him a nod, and he fades away.
Wow.
Shadowbringers is probably my favorite Final Fantasy XIV expansion. I go back and forth between it and Endwalker a lot, but Emet-Selch is what makes that expansion, and what makes the whole story and the themes just fucking like work so well together. And he is just like that type of character, combined with him being just the pettiest, most sarcastic bitch you've ever met, is just fantastic writing. I love every moment that he is on screen. And they did good work with him in Endwalker as well, and I will leave it at that.
I feel like they also totally knew what they were doing with his look.
Yes.
Like they knew that they were creating like somebody that you like almost didn't want to hate, but you couldn't not hate.
Mm-hmm.
Like not hate, but you know what I mean? Like see as a villain and act that way. So
you like
good on them for good writing.
You have to oppose him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you said that he doesn't lie, is it that he can't lie, or
No.
he just chooses not to? It's like like an inner compass.
It's not. I don't even think it's an inner compass. I think that he is just like, he sees himself as like such an advanced being that lying is almost beneath him.
Oh, okay.
And he has no reason to lie about what he's doing. He even like at one point saves one of your friends, like saves their life, and he's just like, a thank you would be nice. after he brings her back.
What a
And it's
bitch.
yeah, it's again perfect writing. He is 100% true when he says, I will not get in your way of you trying to achieve your goal right now.
All right, well, commendable, I suppose.
Yeah. And
Um,
then like just completely truthful about everything he says, which is like amazing to come from a villain, especially if it's followed through like it is with him.
So my quick question here is because I did a little bit of reading on the character. What like is that like the last time that Emet-Selch is even in the game, or
No.
does okay, so he does show up in some capacity after the fact.
Yes, he does. Yes. Which doesn't take away from how he was, and it is completely explained mainly in Endwalker, kind of what the deal is going on. But he's just so good. He's the best villain that I've ever encountered in anything.
Yeah, I think my favorite villains are the ones that are that where you no matter what, you kind of feel like kind of morally compromised, no matter how you end up trying to tackle what they're trying to do. Um, and I like because I initially was thinking about talking about like the Spider-Man villains that I had, but even there's other games too. Like I think Undertale has a lot of cool themes with their like the main of like they're the villains that are just straight up evil, but then the ones that are more like there's more of a gray area.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of like great moments about like I think a good villain is one where you understand where they're coming from, but you also know that you can't let them get away with it.
Exactly.
It is shared a gif of Patrick yelling, "Who are you people?" And that's Emmett after his little magic show goes wrong. And their reality gets erased, apparently.
Kind of.
I like when you can empathize with villains. It's like, I understand why you're doing what you're doing. I'm not going to let you do it, but I get it.
Yep.
So cool. This is a cool character.
Yes, I adore him. Play Final Fantasy 14.
Yeah, all
Sorry for spoiling it.
What? I'm sorry. What? How many times have you spoken about Final Fantasy 14?
This is my fourth time.
And is this your fourth time speaking about the Final Fantasy series?
No, just I think this game.
I mean, just this game.
And how many times have I spoken about
Kelsey.
Stardew Valley?
Kelsey, you do not need to take your heels in on this.
I haven't piled on you about that in a long time.
I know. I'm just teasing.
Next time he talks about Final Fantasy 14, he gets a free smoothie.
That's
Oh,
true.
I see what
yeah.
you're doing.
He's punching the holes in the
I'm punching the
coupon.
holes.
Yeah.
Now, next time I'll talk about will be December 2024 when I talk about whatever the next expansion is for my game of the year.
Right. All right. So that leaves a lot of room though. So you never know. There might be one topic that we decide on, and you're like, ooh.
You don't know, like August of 2023 might be like, what's your favorite Final Fantasy game? And then
literally
you'll force your hand.
Implied Chris would play a Final Fantasy game.
Right. Exactly.
That's after we overthrow. That's after we overthrow him.
Oh, right.
That's after we form a coup on the coop.
Oh, so Kelsey, you're gonna play Final Fantasy?
I have already.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
I
bet a different Final Fantasy because I don't know.
A little bit.
Just a wee bit, just a little bit. Yeah. Well, the Final Fantasy, my Final Fantasy 14 days are far, far away. But you know what's close? A new Kirby game, newish, I guess. And when you think about Kirby, you think there's a lot of great villains in the history of Kirby, and there's usually two that probably come to mind the most. There's King DDD, all right, little penguin guy, actually a big penguin guy. But then there's Meta Knight and Walsh. You want to talk about Meta Knight?
Isn't that fucking crazy that Meta Knight like really comes to mind? And yet, I think Meta Knight has been a villain in like one instance, and I think that that is the level of lasting impact that Meta Knight has had. I think that him coming across as a villain that you really haven't seen before in a lot of Kirby games. Either it's, I'm King Dedede, I eat all the food and I'm greedy, or it is, some sort of creature, or it's just some, I am God, and I am beyond your comprehension. While Meta Knight not only seems to have a more maybe mysterious personality and a little bit, distant, but at the same time, while playing the level Revenge of Meta Knight, you get to see him talking with his crew. And instead of Kirby just going through a level like normal, taking on different enemies, especially on the DS, it's very fun to have it on the bottom screen. But I shared with you guys at least some of the later dialogue of Kirby has infiltrated the ship and is looking to bring down the starship. And the different crew members who very obviously care about one another are deciding which ones are going to abandon ship, which ones are going to fight till the end, and Meta Knight then realizing that he has to face his failure and try to take you on himself. And you almost feel like a villain for a minute. Like, am I the bad guy? These people, like, care about one another, and all of a sudden, instead of it just being evil for evil, it is just like, you're bad, but you show that you care about people, and I think that immediately cements a different idea in the minds of people. And I think since then, it's no surprise that he's become a favorite character, become kind of an anti-hero of being Kirby's ally and helping him along the way, and now being very, very popular.
It's worth noting, like, you are right that like he's not the main villain in a lot of these games. There's two that I can think of. Obviously, Revenge of the Meta Knight in Superstar, and then he's someone that you face during Kirby's Adventure or Nightmare and Dreamlight, depending on which one you play. And then the other game that he's like, I feel like he is like the main boss that you fight until you get to like the real big bad, but is Amazing Mirror, which is that's how I grew to love Meta Knight, is through that game, because you had both of Meta Knight and then there was also like a Shadow Meta Knight that you were fighting as well.
Okay.
And it was a real neat time. But yeah, I love Meta Knight. Meta Knight's like he just has like such a perfect design for being just like a Kirby with a mask on, and like I love the fact that he's like he was like my main in Smash Bros. Brawl when I was playing that, and he just, I don't know, he kicks ass. I just love how much of a badass he is, even though he's like adorable the moment the mask comes off, you know?
Yeah, he's mysterious, he's cool, and he's like still the same shape as Kirby.
Right, exactly. Kirby's cool, but like in a cute way.
See, with me, I find Meta Knight to be like in my top 3 Kirby characters. Like, that isn't Kirby, because he's just that cool. I played through nearly every single Kirby game that has Meta Knight in it. The only one I haven't really fully played through was Amazing Mirror, and even then, it's like, that's not even regular Meta Knight; it's just Dark Meta Knight.
Yeah.
But throughout his design being changed over the years, even like the anime having some influence over his design, because his sword didn't have a name until the anime, and then the anime name for the sword stuck to the mainline series. So I thought that was pretty cool. He, like you said, his design is just so strong, and it's so iconic, and I just love him a lot too.
I think my favorite moments too is the fact that like I don't know, I don't think the original Superstar had this, but I think it was an Ultra thing. But the fact that like you have a whole mode where you could just play as Meta Knight, and like there's some other Kirby games that have done the same thing where you're like, yeah, you play the entire game as Meta Knight, and it introduces like all these new different like abilities like that kind of like expand. Like you can't do copy abilities as Meta Knight, so instead like you have like this tornado that you could spawn with your sword, or you have like different kinds of attacks that are kind of similar to things that Kirby could pick up, but it's just built into Meta Knight. I think it's really cool, and I would be down for a like standalone Meta Knight game at some point. Like I think that's something that like I feel like should come eventually, but maybe won't. Maybe it'll just always be like kind of like a secondary option after you beat the main game of a Kirby game. Yeah, like I just think he is neat, and I would love to do more with him in future.
Insert the picture of Marge Simpson. Like, I just think it's neat.
Yeah, exactly. Anyone else have a Meta Knight? Any feelings about Meta Knight?
Personally, I didn't know what was under his mask until that gameplay video, so thank you for that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just he's just a dark blue Kirby with yellow eyes. You know, he's like fading into the night because he's Meta Knight.
Boo.
I don't know if I was really trying to make a joke there, but it just kind of worked out with wordplay there, or anything. Another villain in the realm of Kirby is one that's going to get the spotlight again with the re-release of Return to Dreamland Deluxe. A villain that our friend Gabe is very much in love with in many ways, and that is Magalor. It's Magalor time, motherfuckers. Gabe, tell us about it.
Right. Okay, so Magalor. He's another one of those top 3 Kirby characters for me that isn't Kirby. I'd say he's number 1, to be honest. But Magalor, where do I begin? First of all, major spoilers for Return to Dreamland.
Yeah, this is a spoiler-filled episode. I should have just said at the top. This is a spoiler-filled episode for all these games. Just deal with it, you know. Either that or skip the episode. You know, that's what I'll say.
But yeah, Magalor is the villain of Return to Dreamland, and he's one of those twist villains that actually works because throughout the main campaign, you are trying to restore his ship that can travel through dimensions. And at the beginning of the game, he crash lands on Popstar, which is Kirby's home planet, and his ship is completely busted. And throughout the game, you have to collect all of his ship parts to rebuild his ship so that you can go back to his homeland. And it's questionable if it is even his homeland or not. It's up for debate. But he ends up taking you to a 4-headed dragon. You defeat them, and then he steals something from the dragon and becomes the big bad of the game, as the reveal. And throughout the whole game, he's been taking advantage of you taking advantage of your goodwill and wanting to help him get back home, where he just backstabs you and tries to kill you in the process, which I think is really, really fun, especially for a Kirby game, because that's only happened once before with Marks, and as much as I love Marks, I feel like it's a bit of a mixed success because, you know, you only talk to Marks once, whereas throughout the game, you're building a relationship with Magalor, and his thankfulness towards you seems so genuine at first. However, he just kicks you and absolutely just backstabs you, and I feel like that's very compelling for a Kirby villain, at least at the time, because, you know, there's been so many more instances of much better villains since then. But I still think Magalor is absolutely one of my favorite villains throughout the Kirby franchise as a whole, and he's just a little cute guy, and he's got some bonus content in Return to Dreamland Deluxe that was announced recently, so I'm very excited for that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Return to Dreamland is the only Kirby game that I have played,
Mhm.
so I really like Magalor. I think the kind of like twist villain aspect I think works really well for this kind of game, and the way that he comes out, just very very charming in how it works. I will also always have an association with Magalor because in the Survivor game that I played, one guy got caught cheating, and the alt account that he used had a Magalor profile picture. So the concept of somebody pretending to be someone they're not, only to be evil afterwards, is really fucking on the nose and very funny to me.
Think they did that on purpose?
Absolutely not. They were not that smart enough.
You know what? You've told that story a couple of times. I only now just made the connection of how ironic it is. Yeah. I think the Magalor twist didn't land with me only because I kind of like immediately was like, oh, this guy is gonna be bad. He's gonna turn on us, isn't he? The moment the game, we were introduced to him, and that ruined the game for me.
I know.
I think that and that sucks. And you know what? I've said it so many times about my feelings about the game, so I won't keep on going on about it. But I'm so excited for Return of Dreamland Deluxe because I think that this is gonna, because I've had this new kind of refound my love for Kirby. I feel like I'm going to have so much more of an appreciation for it now instead of back then. And I think Magalor is just if you're in Kirby circles, if you're around people who love Kirby, Magalor is so beloved. And I love that in this game, this really, even before they introduced the fact that they're going to be doing this side story in the post game where you're going to be helping Magalor escape this dimension that he's in, and rebuild his powers. But even before they introduced that, this felt like, hey, Magalor fans, this is the fucking game for you, because they even have an entire theme park that they're having in this game where you go and play all the mini games in the history of Kirby, essentially. And he's the one that has created it, and it's this beautiful castle. I played the demo, and I was just like, "Holy crap! This is such a cool set piece in this game." And so, I am done with my pessimism at Return of Dreamland. I want to love this game, and I'm excited to fall in love with Magalor like everyone else has, because I think I do think that he's an adorable villain, and I hope that when it's all said and done, I hope he's still a bad guy, but I kind of hope he has a redemption arc in this side story that's going on. Maybe he won't. Maybe it's too easy to go down that route. But I don't know. It would be fun. I'm very curious about how it's all going to play out. But Magalor's cool.
Yeah, man, I thought he was cool. I liked his design. I can't believe that he's actually a villain that looks different when he is a villain.
Yeah.
The heck, man.
I actually, when you talk about it, Gabe, you've definitely convinced me when it comes to the difference between him and Marks, because I feel like Marks for me was that moment of oh, this guy is seeking help because the sun and moon are feuding with each other, and you want to go say it. And to me, that hit for me at the time a little bit more. But the more you talk, when you're talking about you don't really get to spend a whole lot of time with Marks, where you are spending the entirety of Return of Dreamland with Magalor, that, I'm yeah, that does make sense. That I think is more effective as a plot twist type situation for the game. And so yeah, it is gonna be fun to re-experience that in the remake, which is out probably by the time this episode comes out, so you may already have thoughts from us on that front. So yeah. Anyone else about Magalor before we turn the page?
He's cool.
Yeah. All right. So we are going to now jump to the mid-seg. And Walsh, it is February. That means the one standout holiday, or one of the standout holidays in February, is Valentine's Day. So we're gonna do something about dating.
Yeah, so I'll restate myself a little bit with some of the stuff that I shared with you guys. For the big segment, I had a job for everybody before we recorded, because the most romantic and sinister thing I could think of considering we're doing villains, were those 80s video dating tapes where, you know, people are like, hey, I'm looking for love. My name is this. I have this job. And if you like walking on the beach, if you like... I was about to say stupid shit. But yeah, that kind of thing. But, you know, I'm getting too into character already. So instead, I found this old tape that we recorded. And it is, I don't think we realized that dating apps are a thing because we made a tape. You guys remember? We made a tape. And as one big polyamorous group, we are looking for love.
I remember that. That was after a late night of playing a lot of games, and we were all tired, and we were like, you know what? Let's make a dating video.
So here's the fun part, because in reality, I gave each of you a prompt that when written, you know, restating the prompt, and each of you, I have just now spoiled what each of you will be reading out loud. Of course, you could be as sensual or as sexy as you like, but totally up to you. And then the person who wrote for me can insert it spoiled. And we're gonna read these and react to them as we read them, and we'll go in this order.
Okay. Are you going to also state the question but ahead of time?
No, I did. I had one person who I kind of added a little bit to your answer to make it kind of fit better.
Sure. Okay.
Are you guys ready?
Yeah.
To find some love?
Please read in your sexiest voice. Sorry, I just read that part.
All right, Anthony, you may take it away.
Oh, all right, here we go. I'm attracted to people based on how many Family Guy quotes they have memorized. You know, it seems today that all you see is violence in movies and sex on TV.
Oh my god.
Which is the best part about both of those things. So if they're really able to understand what Peter and Joe and friends are saying, I know they're the one for me.
Go ahead, keep going. Next person.
All right, so we're just going to go straight. All right.
Oh, we're going right through it. You know, we have a backdrop. It's even though it's green screen, it's showing the beach. It's kind of from one of us to another.
I feel sexiest when I blow up the toilet and it sets off the carbon monoxide detector.
Jesus. Okay. I love it when I'm consumed by the warm embrace of another body leaning up against mine. I would love it if you could lean on me when you're not strong. I'll be your friend and I'll help carry you on. I'll help you carry on.
For my guilty pleasure, I like to discuss the politics of which hamster is the most dastardly, deliciously, delectably devious between my families and Walsh's.
My hidden talent is something me and my neighbor Lefty Terrence call the Wah Ben. Turns out I could shoot golf balls out of my rectum at high velocity. Join me for drinks and dancing sometime, and I'll tell you all about how I discovered how talented I truly am.
The most important thing I'm looking for in a partner is their aura. I can tell what color your aura is just by seeing you. So if you have a violet or turquoise aura, hit me up, because I know you must be sloppy. Let me put your solar plexus to my third eye and just ruin our chakras.
Oh, I love this. This was so to the point, but like thoroughly feel violated.
So, if you find the Gaming Coop might be to your taste, hit us up. Give us a call.
I hear the music in the background, but very faintly. In a way, I'm kind of glad it's not picking up in case it's going to be a copyright strike, but there you go. Well, there you go. Wow. That's a rinse. And Might be our quickest mid-seg ever.
Anyway,
that happened.
It happened. That did happen. We all just went through it together, and I appreciate
I
it.
feel bad for the player that's got to follow that.
well, don't worry, because guess what? This is the perfect time after some weird reading about chakras and shooting golf balls out of your rectum to tell you all about our sponsors. Hi, everyone. It's Chris, and I'm back once again to tell you all about Anchor. Anchor by Spotify has actually been the tool of choice for Team Chaos Productions since the moment we decided to get into podcasting. And the biggest reason for this is it's the easiest way to make a podcast with everything you need all in one place. Anchor has tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your computer or even your phone. When hosting on Anchor, you can distribute your podcast on listening platforms like Spotify, but also Apple Podcasts and many more. And best of all, Anchor is free. You do not need to worry about any features being locked out to you. You can get it all if you just download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Happy podcasting. I'm Chris.
and I'm Matt, and we're the Virtual Ball Boys.
During the NFL season, we will talk about the games and headlines on everyone's minds. Plus, we give our predictions for the weeks ahead.
In the off-season, we run our own fictional football league with tabletop gameplay mechanics.
Like that, listen to the Virtual Ball Boys on Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts, and we will see you on the show.
Good night, and good ball.
All right, we are back. Turns out it was just a phone call that Matt was taking, and not actual music he was playing in the background. I thought that was going to be really really creative at the moment, but luckily it was just a mistake. And
but for the listener, maybe there just might have been some music. If you heard music, I actually didn't. Nobody added any music. It's just you're in love with us.
Right, exactly. Anyways, folks, it is time for us to turn the tables. Jesus, turn the page. Turn the tables sounds like it's really well. You know what? This game is all about fucking shit up because there's a lot of murders and crazy shit that goes down in the case of the Golden Idol. And today, Anthony, you're going to tell us all about a couple of villains that are in this game. But first, answer the question: what is the case of the Golden Idol?
Yeah, so the case of the Golden Idol is this indie detective game that just completely blew me away. And I really, really, really recommend that everybody at least try it out. It's like $15. It has a killer soundtrack that I'm going to be talking about at some point. And just the art and the writing is so cool. And for that reason, I'm not going to spoil the entire game. I think there's something to be said about, spoiling AA or AAA games, but when it comes to an indie game, you kind of still want people to engage with it because they may not have even known that it exists. So I'm going to talk about my villain, but I'm going to leave it to you guys and anyone interested to see what ultimately happens to them. So, with all that being said, I'm going to give you an overview of the Golden Idol story, and if anything about following a strange occult object through the hands of multiple owners in this very amazing olden time setting intrigues you, just fast forward like 3 minutes at least. Because I'm going to get pretty in-depth with the story just as part of talking about somebody. So, the case of the Golden Idol starts off with 2 explorers, and one of them is murdering the other one to take sole claim of their discoveries. And they have found something called the Golden Idol, and it is gold. It is an idol.
It's silver.
Yeah, and it contains some very interesting properties. And the next scene that you have is a descendant from one of these explorers who had an accident and died. And he belongs to this order. And it's kind of like an order, like a brotherhood kind of thing. And he also has quite a large family. And the next scene shows the reading of his last will and the dividing of his assets. And his family seems to not be too happy because, some people he's left a house, some people he's left some money. One person who was especially troubled, he left a book of advice, which just kind of seems like a slap in the face. And he left to his brotherhood the famed golden idol. And some of his family members tried to stop him from leaving with the golden idol. A man named Willard Wright was possessing the idol at this point. And he uses its powers to light somebody on fire. Spontaneous combustion, to be exact. And someone named Edmund Cloudsley, who is known as the family member who's most into politics, kind of takes note of this. And he's like, what an unexpected turn of events. And you see him kind of just looking on with those glasses that kind of have like that handheld stem that you see people watch like old-timey plays with. And Edmund Cloudsley sends his servant, someone named David Gorin, to take the idol from him. In the process, his servant David Gorin kills Willard Wright, and the Brotherhood takes note of this and is not very happy about it. And the Brotherhood sends Edmund Cloudsley several notes threatening his life if he does not make amends for killing one of their own and hand over the idol. And this all comes to a head when one of Edmund Cloudsley's siblings is poisoned and killed at a dinner party. And the only reason she died and he did not is because they're eating the exact same thing and she happened to eat first. So at this point, Edmund Cloudsley starts to get a little paranoid. And he holds out in a shack while he's studying the idol and, making all these traps. And he decides to put the idol in an urn. And he sucks all of the air out of the room and out of the urn and puts the idol in there. And what he's learned is that the idol will take and then give. So if you take air, it will give air. If you take life, it will give life. So when intruders come in and try to take the idol, it explodes, kills them, sends urn fragments all over the room. And the next thing you see is David Gorin, who's Edmund Cloudsley's loyal servant, testifying that in the attack, Edmund was disfigured and died from the explosion. And some time passes, and the next thing you know, you're at the headquarters of the Brotherhood, and a young man named Lazarus is undergoing a test to see if he's approved by Lord Typhon to join the Brotherhood. And meanwhile, David Gorin is, for some unknown reasons, also infiltrating the Brotherhood. He is pretending to be somebody else to get somebody into it. And the way I kind of understood it is that, David Gorin was hired by somebody else now that Edmund is dead. And in the following scene, you see that Lazarus now has the golden idol, and he used it to prove himself in a show of magic in front of the Brotherhood. And their rules are that if you can perform a miracle, and whoever challenges you cannot perform that miracle, you have proven yourself to be the reborn god of the Brotherhood. And because the golden idol must first take and then must give, Lazarus was able to fly using the idol, and the person who challenged him could not, and they fell to their death. And so you see this beautiful crowning coronation ceremony on a lighthouse with a corpse in the background, and people are celebrating Lazarus, who is their god. And then Lazarus concocts this plan to bring the Brotherhood into the ruling parties of the land. And he hosts this massive house party, and one person gets framed for killing another person, and before you know it, the only political party left is the one that Lazarus is running. And he wastes no time at all ascending to become this head of state and overseeing this court where for every demerit that you do, whether it's listening to music or flirting with someone or getting inebriated, the golden idol takes away years of your life and grants it to Lazarus and his party. And once they grow strong enough, they form an army and march on the capital of the king. And in Lazarus's tent, you see an embroidered handkerchief with the initials EC. And you see his plan, which was that to find and pursue his true love, he needed to become younger, and he needed to gain power, and he needed to overcome this society. And ultimately, the final mission is about finding out what happened to Edmund, what happened to the other members of the Order, whether they were successful in, creating this mutiny over the king. And I'm not going to tell you what happens to Edmund / Lazarus, but the game kind of shows you, him de-aging people, re-aging himself, him infiltrating the cult, and his ultimate plan. And even though he created like the society where, you get in trouble if you listen to music or if you're too fashionable, it's almost like you can't help but respect the machinations and the vision and the goals that brought him to this spot, and like the sheer audacity of this plan. And it was just so cool. I was rooting for him the entire time. I was just in awe of this plan. And I was like, with a name like Lazarus, I feel like he's going to be somebody that's dead, right? Like that's the mystery. But just before I started the last mission, I was like, oh my God, what if he's Edmund? It was the coolest fucking twist. And yeah, there you have it. There's Edmund / Lazarus.
This is a really, really good video game. I had the pleasure of playing it when it came out. I played the demo. I forget if you or me, Anthony, ended up playing the demo first, but we both of us had our eyes on the game essentially right when it came out, and it lived up to expectations for me. And I am someone that played and loved Return of the Obra Dinn, which I believe Walsh, you talked about that for a Coop, right? Was that last time? I feel like at some point you talked about it. But that game is like an all-time favorite for me. like that game, like it got me so into the idea of like a puzzle mystery game where you have all the pieces in front of you, you just have to put it together. And I really really loved Return of the Obra Dinn, and so then to get this game, which was actually like played by the creator of Obra Dinn, and he was like, yeah, play this game, like this game is really really good. Like it completely hit, and I think the story is just so much fun, and I definitely found a lot of the characters to be like fascinating to follow them throughout. Like you like at first you feel like you're not like the first like couple of scenes you're like, I don't know if all of this is going to end up being connected, but then you start seeing the same reoccurring characters again, and you're like,
Yep.
okay. And you kind of see how not just Edmund, like you get like a whole lot of these characters that you see from start to finish, like and their journeys that they go on, whether who lives, who dies, and things like that. And it's a very intense story that is done. It presented in a way that's not intense at all. Like you take your time to dig through clues and piece things together, and that's kind of that's like the ideal mystery game to me, where it's not like there is no stakes in how you solve it. You just try to spend as much time in the scenes that you have in front of you to try to piece it all together. And it's kind of, the gameplay is like a Mad Libs type situation where you're picking up words that you find throughout each scene, and then taking those words and piecing it together to kind of understand what happened. And that also helps you in identifying people and certain objects that are used in the scene. It's just it's so creative, it's so well done, and I definitely could see its inspirations, and it makes me excited to see what the studio is going to do next.
Yeah, well said. You actually recommended it to me, and I was like, oh shit, yeah, this is awesome.
Yeah. No, yeah, it was really good. It was like I this is totally something that I think Anthony would enjoy, and so I'm glad you ended up loving it, because again, it is so well done.
I think that it's interesting too that of course you were like, Lazarus, is this going to have to do with like coming back from the dead and stuff like that, because that idea goes all the way back to like the Bible. I do
Yep.
believe it's the story of like Lazarus of Bethany or something, where Jesus raised them from the dead.
Huh. Cool. Yeah, I've never touched a Bible in my life, so that's cool that know that. That's cool.
What's a Bible?
What is this Bible you're talking about?
Yeah, good catch.
Yeah. Any other reactions to the case of the Golden Idol?
Just sounds fucking cool.
It is.
Super cool.
But yeah, definitely play it. See how Lazarus' journey, if he succeeds or not, is a good time. And you know what else is a good time? Hamtaro, and in general, I miss Hamtaro. I want Hamtaro to come back to us.
Same.
Been lost in time. I don't even know who owns Hamtaro at this point. Some other it's someone that's not Nintendo. That's all I know. But Nintendo used to publish some great great games involving Hamtaro, and the best, I think, of the bunch, in my personal opinion anyway, was Hamtaro Ham Heartbreak. Kels, you and I share a love for a lot of games, but this is one that we both love very dearly, and you're going to talk to us about the villain of this story, Spat.
Yes. So Hamtaro Ham Heartbreak was published in Japan first in May of 2002, but came to North America in April 2003. It was not that shortly after that I remember that we played it, so I know for a fact that we picked it up most likely secondhand from Game Crazy.
I think
I
so.
do not remember this being something that we sought out. I think we stumbled upon it. But I actually grew up loving Hamtaro and the anime, and had even a little Hamtaro, their clubhouse. I had an actual toy clubhouse with these little rubber hamsters that were all of the characters. So we were always Hamtaro fans. But Ham Heartbreak is awesome because it is one of the, I believe it's the first it's not one of the first adventure games in the Hamtaro series, but I think it might have been one of the most popular in America, and then followed by I forget what the follow-up game was, but it was very good also.
Yeah, it was
I believe.
Hamtaro Ham Games, which was like a mini game collection. But there was a
Right
before the Heartbreak was Ham Unite, which had a very similar gameplay loop, but it was mostly about like just collecting hamsters on the Game Boy Color. It was neat.
Okay. So Ham Heartbreak is like the one that I played, like the one that I played the most, the one that I played several times. It's the best game. It was Game Boy Advance. It's a very simple storyline, but it's essentially that you come into the game. But for those who don't know, Hamtaro is a hamster, and he lives in his own little world, doing adventures, having friends. Has a little like kind of girlfriend hamster whose name is Bijou. Who, fun fact, Christopher had a hamster growing up whose name was Bijou. She was a white hamster. So we were always into Hamtaro, but in this game you start the game by Hamtaro's having a nightmare in the beginning of the game, and it's a hamster that's dressed in like a little devil's costume with a little trident, and he is going around in the nightmare destroying the relationships of other hamsters, and this can be anything from like best friends to husband and wife or lovers or like brother and sister, but like just going around and causing heartbreak wherever he is. The hamster notices Hamtaro in the dream and tries to attack Hamtaro, but he's awakened Hamtaro by Boss, who's another hamster, who tells him it's just a dream. And then Hamtaro later finds his best friend, and they realize that this hamster who had visited the dream was actually real, and his name is Spat, and he's adorable, and he's this little gray and white hamster that literally wears a little devil costume and who's just absolutely dead set on ruining everybody's relationships. He sounds like a real petty bitch, but he's adorable, so I'm not really sure what like I don't even know. He is also featured in the anime, but only in the Japanese show anime, not what was transferred over to the States, I don't believe, but I could be wrong. But I don't remember seeing him in the anime. I could just be forgetting. But he quite literally is just a little bitch that wants to break everybody's hearts. But he's kind of like bad at it also. Like they kind of make it so that like he's like, ha 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 ha, I told lies and manipulated you people into breaking up, and damn that Hamtaro and his rascally kids and his dog too for ruining my plans. Like, but he's like, it's just like so like it's so chill and like silly. It's like it's written with a humor and with a silliness that makes it very hard to like actually despise Spat, unless that's just me, but I kind of think he's adorable, and I kind of just want to like I think he just needs a snack and a nap, and I think he would be okay. But you never really get to that point in resolving in the game. Long story short, you spend the entire game trying to undo all of the heartbreak that Spat has caused, and Spat has like a opposite character of him that's name is Harmony, and she's this little like angel hamster, and she's like, oh no, Spat's at it again. Here, I'll help you repair all of the heartbreak, and you have to fill my little heartbreak meter, and when you do, you win. And it's just like it's very chill but very wholesome and very very fun. And Spat's just, I can't even say anything else about Spat. Like he's just literally this stinky little hamster doing stinky little things, and you just are running around trying to undo his stinky, and that's like the best way I can describe it. Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't have anything else really, but that's just
it's okay.
The extent of it, and like focusing, like I could talk about the actual game like much more and like go into the mechanics and stuff, but that's not really what this pod is about this time around. So it's merely about the little devil hamster, who I actually told when I was first telling Anthony about it, I said that he was dressed like a bat because I forgot that he's supposed to be a devil. I was like, yeah, he's in a bat, and I'm not really sure why he's dressed like a bat, but he's in a bat costume.
Actually, I would make the argument he is in a bat costume, but
so
like,
it's supposed to be like a little devil costume, but I think that that's all visual elements that all like align with being a villain.
Yeah,
because bats don't have antennae like he's wearing on his head.
Right.
It's supposed to be like little devil horns.
That's fair.
But
that's
also
fair.
the devil doesn't have like antennae; he has horns, and that's not what he's wearing.
That's
so
also, yeah.
I think it's just what they chose to do, but he's kind of goofy, and it's like,
Yes.
so
I
anyway, that's
I find Spat. I definitely find Spat more annoying than cute, but I can totally see his cuteness.
I mean,
in
he
terms
is,
of-
especially when you're playing the game itself.
yeah.
He's very like just pops up at the absolute worst times and is very, very annoying. And like, but he's also kind of like, I don't know.
do
I
you,
think
do,
he's silly.
do you have like a specific scene that you like there's you basically defeat Spat multiple times over the course of the game. Like you overcome whatever obstacle he kind of presents, and it is and like each one's just like, okay, like, yeah, this is I saw I he's like, oh, you solved my riddle, no. Like,
Right.
but like, Kels, do you have like a scene in particular that you like from the game, like in terms of defeating him, or is there like
Of
even like if it's
feeding him.
either the ending or if you had like a specific like, because I'll say for me that was great. I think my favorite one is there is the amusement park level in the Hamtaro Ham Heartbreak, and you are at one point basically when you first arrive at the amusement park, all the rides are out of control. Like you can't, and it is said or hinted at that like Spat was the one that caused it, and ultimately leads to everyone being heartbroken because the
What a
rides
little
are
shit.
the rides are out of control. And so at one point you go to you visit the control room, and you see that Spat's in there messing with the rides and have tied up one of the hamsters. And you're at one point you interact with a robot that was like built for the park to like clean up the park as like a little groundskeeper hamster thing. And the robot, if you command it the correct way, well, okay, so the sequence is that first you have to throw trash onto Spat. And so you throw trash onto Spat, and then you convince the robot to go clean Spat. He literally picks Spat up in the air and blasts off into the sky. and then it cuts to the map, and like they usually indicate on the map where Spat is. And he had like this little icon like right on the amusement park, and like right as the robot blasts off, it cuts to the map, and the Spat icon just fades away from the amusement park. And it's just very funny, and it hits for me of like that's very satisfying of like accomplishing this little obstacle here. So I don't know if you have a similar one, Kelsey.
So I don't. So the problem is that I have access to the game, but given the first part of this year has been a little chaotic for us.
Yeah, it's a bit rough. It's a bit rough.
I wanted to put more time into like actually enjoying and like re-familiarizing myself with the game in a way that would allow me to like answer this question more thoroughly. I
Sure.
will say that one of my favorite parts of the game, though I can't specifically remember all of the because really in the game, like you said, like there's an amusement park area, there's a beach area, there's like a haunted house area. Like I don't even remember what it was. It was like a funeral home or like
it was a haunted house. Yeah,
a haunted house.
Yeah.
So like there's so many different areas, but in each one of those areas, there's like several relationships that have been ruined by Spat and that you're going through and trying to create. And so kind of like almost like a couple of mini battles, and then more of like a bigger, more frustrating area that's like a more of a boss type fix. But that was my favorite area of the game. I have like explicit memory of working through the haunted house area and really enjoying like the different problems. And something that I've always appreciated in this game is when you think about like love and heartbreak, almost all the times you're thinking about like romantic situations. But what I thought was really amazing is that more times than not in this game, you're also fixing relationships or heartbreak that has been caused in misunderstandings on siblings and friendships, or just as much as you're repairing romantic relationships. And I think that was like just a very subtle thing in the game that probably they didn't think much about. But I think that just like showing that like love isn't just romantic in a video game. It's also like you can love your friends and have misunderstandings that you have to work through. and between your siblings and things like that too. So I don't know. It's just something that I really appreciated with the game always. But just working back to Spat for a quick second, he really is like when Anthony was like, "What a little shit." He really just is a little shit. That's exactly what he is.
That's
Like
yeah.
he reminds me of my cat. Like he just completely is just like this. But like this one thing I shared where he's literally like, "I'm here to start squabbles. I'll not stop till I'm done." That PFPTH, however you would pronounce that, whether it's like a full out raspberry or like however you would, that is his catchphrase. And at certain points in the game, his text bubbles are literally just that over and over and over again. When he has he has little temper tantrums where he just is like, and he just does that like over and over. So I don't know. It's just it's just like silly. It's just he's like one of the most harmless villains ever created in games. So and I think he's cute. And so just right exactly. But just a quick fun fact that I found out. So something I didn't realize about the game itself was that apparently, and this also comes up in the anime as well, Bat's behavior is like him being a little shit and her trying to break hearts. But whenever he has interactions with Harmony, even when she's yelling at him, apparently he's blushing, which has led to people, I guess there's a big fanfic or like ship community that is like, oh, he has a crush on Harmony. So that's something that I never actually picked up on, but I don't know. Apparently Spat has a crush on Harmony. But also in the Italian dub, his name is Burbo.
Love it.
Which means rascal or scamp. And in the French dub, his name is Zizani, which translates to Discord.
Huh.
Yeah. So, but I think it's funny that in the Italian dub, his name is Burbo, which is why I named myself what I named myself for this chat. But yeah, I don't have a There's not much more to say about Spat. He just is what he is.
He is what he is.
His name is Little Shit.
Yes.
Well, anyone else have anything of note to say about Spat?
It's a cute little fella. I can't even be mad at him.
I know, that's how I feel. Like you can fix what he does. It's not like he does anything so catastrophic that like you can't fix it. So
this is spoilers for the end of Hamtaro Hammer Heartbreak, but I don't think anyone's really rushing out to play that game. So I think another one of my favorite moments is at the very end. You use Harmony's love arrows to shoot down like this robot thing that he's built. And then once he's successfully hit with a love arrow, he hops out of the robot and he is now wearing Harmony's outfit.
Yes.
And I was just like, that's cute.
They made him into a little angel.
And
he gets mad about it.
And he's like, no,
I don't want to be a little angel.
No, yeah, it's real cute.
He's a little shit.
Yeah. Hey, like Hamtaro, come back to us. You know, we miss you.
That's what I'm saying. I would spend so much money in Nintendo.
Yeah.
For Hamtaro.
You know what we haven't had much of a shortage of though, from Nintendo, Wario. Wario. We've had a lot of Wario.
Who was that? Is he here?
So I kind of struggled with this one because I wanted to talk about like in a serious way. I was like, oh, I'm gonna talk about like these Spider-Man villains because the Octo Octavius is fucking. I really love his storyline in Marvel Spider-Man, but I'm just like, you know what? I'm not equipped for this. You know, we got comic books, Marvel. All right, I don't know this stuff. This is above my pedigree. All right.
Chris.
Well, I do know.
Chris, why do you keep hitting me?
What my true knowledge is completely rooted in my Nintendo in the Mario and Kirby's and all that stuff. And Wario is both a character that I have loved, and I've also there's some aspects of Wario's character that I've embraced and loved, and there's some aspects that are a bit of a blind spot to me. But in the last like 24 hours, especially, I've done my research on Wario, and especially over the course of this month, I would say actually, because uh, this month, if you are in under a rock, as they say, when it comes to Nintendo Directs and stuff, you have maybe seen that the Game Boy Color and Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advance games were added to the Switch, so it completely reinvigorated the discourse around those games and how good or bad they may be. Mostly good. And I I for the let's start. I'm going to start with WarioWare because that's the series I've always loved. That WarioWare is up there for me with Animal Crossing, Mario Kart, Kirby, Mario. Like WarioWare is right up there with all those games among my favorite series of all time. I am in love with WarioWare. However, I had never played the very first WarioWare, which is WarioWare Mega Micro Games. I've also never played the sequel, which was Twisted, which was also on Game Boy Advance, but I have it and I will play it eventually. But I never played it, and playing it through it this month for the first time was so awesome and so cool. And I loved what I love so much about Wario as a villain is no matter where he has been more times than not a protagonist in his stories, but he is always a anti-hero. He is always someone that is going in with selfish interests and doesn't really care about anyone else but himself. And it's so counter to kind of what like I guess like what Nintendo games have always been, where you just have like this hero character that you are playing as, and they are lawful good in many ways in their attempt to try to take down the big bad. And that's what makes a character like Wario so different, because even though he is this main character in these games, like there is times in the stories in these games that you just are rooting against him actively. The origins of and I to go bring it back real quick to Mega Micro Games, like this was like another instance of this, because the introduction of the WarioWare franchise was that a Wario wants to make money, and he wants to do it by creating a video game. And so he brings on and hires a bunch of people to make this micro game. And over the course of the WarioWare series, he's willing to do anything to continue to make money, like steal certain artifacts that like something that looks like a DS, and like the form baton, which we've talked about before, is like the Wii remote, and things like that from like these temples and from other like secret areas of the world, and stealing it and then selling it to the mass audience. He would then take that money and hold on to it, even though he hired a bunch of his friends to work on micro games with him, and he would not pay them. Like he's an asshole. He is just out and about an asshole, but he's endearing in a weird way at the same time, because he has these weird games that you end up enjoying. Wario's origins come from Super Mario Land 2, 6 Golden Coins, a game that is originally was like such a departure from Mario that it wasn't even considered a mainline series. I think nowadays people more so consider it part of like the mainline Mario games. But I played it for the first time last night, and I beat it for the first time last night, and I think it might be my favorite 2D Mario, straight up. I think it is it genuinely is so weird in its presentation, and how like, hey, like you have all these zones, you can play any of these zones at any time. Like you're not going like in this linear way, which I tend to enjoy. I tend to prefer in games, but it was fun to kind of like walk across the map and then like go to this tree, and you're in the tree zone, and you're in this level where you're climbing up a giant tree, or you go to this house that you are now miniature in, and you are kind of like climbing up a bookshelf, or in facing a mouse in an attic as like the final boss. And then there's like a Mario zone where you're playing with all like these toys and gears and things like that. And it, like and then like there's a final boss fight in like the pumpkin zone where you're fighting the 3 little pigs, or I don't know, I don't think it's the pumpkin zone, but whatever. Regardless, it's such an absurd game, but I love how weird it is, and it embraces it, and it all culminates after you collect the 6 golden coins. You regain access to Mario's castle, because apparently Mario has a castle in this game. That has been stolen from Mario by Wario. And this is Wario's first ever appearance in video games. And he attacks in a kind of similar way to Mario, where he is he does have like his running attack that becomes more famous in the Wario Land games, but there's 2 power-ups that you really use throughout Mario Land 2, a fire flower and like a carrot that gives you like bunny ears and that lets you jump a lot. And so then Wario consumes these power-ups and uses them against you in this boss fight, which I ended up sending to you guys. And I thought that was just like a really cool concept. Like, hey, we're going to turn the powers that you've been using throughout the whole game against you in this fight, because ultimately Wario is the opposite of Mario. While Mario is the hero, Wario is this here. Mario's the hero character that is always going to save the day and do things in a selfless manner. Wario is the selfish, greedy one who will steal your castle and will use anything against you as long as it keeps him in power. And it was just really cool revisiting that, or visiting, for me, it was visiting it for the first time, and experiencing like the first ever moment that Wario was introduced to the world. He was really goofy looking in that game, more so than usual, than what Wario usually is. But I think what also is interesting is the Wario Land games that have followed, because ultimately the sequel to Mario Land 2 was Wario Land 1. Where Wario, and forgive me, this is where I have my blind spot with Wario. Like, I have not really played a whole lot of the Wario Land games, or if I had, it's very little. But my understanding of it is that as the series has evolved, one thing that it feels like that they want to emphasize is you are going into each level hunting for treasure, and you do have enemies that you face, but I wanted to kind of do research on this and see if I could find it that like Nintendo confirmed this or not. But I was listening to a podcast and someone brought up how what's interesting about the Wario Land games is over time they eliminated the life system, and you do not die in those games. Like, there is not a death screen for those games. You do get, there's like a one scenario, I think, in like Wario Land 3 or something, where like if you get kidnapped by the boss, you get a game over screen, but that's it. You don't die in these games. It's a novel concept, honestly, one that I feel like I wish was in more games of this caliber, and one that like I've always been on the soapbox of like, I just find life systems in games to be very archaic at this point, and I want to move past it. So the fact that it's in these now like decades old, games in the Wario Land franchise, I find really interesting. But the one thing that someone brought up in the podcast was the fact that like the enemies in the game don't hurt Wario. The powers that they may have may affect him and may set him back, but he doesn't die. And their interpretation of that was that because Wario is a villain, he is one with the enemies. The enemies are not going to kill him because he is one of them. And I just thought that was really interesting. Like, when you think about anti-heroes in the, in general with video games, like, they still have people that are going to, kill them in their games. They're going to still have people that are going to do, they're going to do everything in their power to stop them. But it's interesting having the approach to a game, designing a game around an anti-hero and being like, oh yeah, the enemies aren't going to kill the main character because the main character is one of them. And I thought that was just that's such an interesting take on that concept overall. And I just think overall, like, Wario is the garlic eating, the greedy, the super like focused on himself and not thinking of anyone else character that no matter what scenario he's in, he's always going to think about how will this help me character. He's so tropey in so many ways, but there's something about him that I absolutely love. And I think it's a lot of it is because of how creative, like, whenever there's Wario, you're going to get a interesting creative game. out of him. Whether it is WarioWare, where you are playing these micro games at fast-paced fashion that like no one else has really, at least to me, like I feel like no one else has really replicated well. To Wario Land, a game that is a platformer but is so different from other platformers because you don't die in this game. You are just simply trying to explore and solve puzzles. You're not like having to worry about a health bar. Like, you know that when you are approaching a game with him in it, you're going to get something that stands out above a crowd that lean into things that we're used to in video games. And I think that just what that maybe not doesn't make him the perfect villain necessarily, but I think that just makes him be like one of the more fascinating villains in video games in general. Just like no matter what, he's gonna provide entertainment in a way that you don't expect. Yeah, I think that's kind of is my general that hits all my general thoughts on Wario. But yeah, Mega Micro Games is incredible, and if you have Game Boy Advance, if you have access to the Game Boy Advance catalog, you should play that. You should play Super Mario Land 2 as well if you haven't played that. Like, a lot of great stuff. I have a cat meowing behind me, so I apologize about that. But yeah, that's Wario for you. Any thoughts on Wario from everyone else?
Wario's fucking disgusting.
Wario's the fucking coolest. He's an eldritch being who cannot be harmed. Yeah. Garlic is why he's so strong. And you know what? Wario could get it.
I agree.
Everyone right now is thinking, how could you say something so controversial yet so brave?
I understand. Go ahead.
I'm very glad that Wario has never been portrayed on Saturday Night Live.
Oh no, yeah, it's never happened. I think Hatsune Miku portrayed him on
Hatsune Miku portrayed Wario on Saturday Night Live.
SNL. Yeah.
Yo, Wario needs to learn how to clean his ass.
Yeah, no, listen, I'm not saying, like, I'm telling you that I find him a fascinating villain. I am not saying that he's the perfect villain, because he definitely has swamp ass.
Really?
So...
I didn't get that vibe.
So, like, but again, like, you just know that no matter what, maybe you have to, like, hold your nose a bit, but you know you're gonna have a good time when he's involved. That's all I'm saying.
Is that, like, canon that he smells bad?
Yes.
I don't know. I guess it is.
No, is that canon? Is it like actually in the games? It's.
I think you could assume that, but I don't think it actually is a concrete.
I think we could assume that they all probably smell bad. Have we ever actually seen a shower for supposed plumbers?
So Mario does shower in like one of the RPG games.
Yeah, Mario Luigi Superstar Saga. He does shower.
Yes, so we know.
So showers exist, but we just haven't ever seen. I will not stand for this Wario slander. So we don't actually know about his hygiene.
We're just making assumptions. Constantly stank.
He eats a lot of garlic, which so then we can make that assumption maybe that his breath smells.
What has Wario ever done to any of you?
Smell bad.
Aside from releasing that one game about the different masks and costumes.
Master, or whatever. I just want to say Master of Disguise, but that might actually be what it's called.
Yes, it is.
Oh no! Why would you name something after the Dana Carving film? Granted, I did like that film when I was growing up. But
it hasn't aged
very well.
No, it
has not.
It has not. But no, yeah. I think that Wario is a fun character to have as a like, even if you think about like the party games that he's in, the sports games, like he's just always just a weird. Sorry if my mic sounds muffled because
I was just gonna say you can tell that Chris is trying to attend to Leo because of the way that the mic sounds.
The cat, he is pressed up against the mic right now is the problem.
Oh, good.
So we gotta just deal with this right now while he's here. Do you want to get in my lap? All right, now, okay. I even like the games, like he just like I just like that they give him like different looks too. Like he has like he's like the usual yellow with the purple overalls, but then he has like this biker outfit, and then there's games where he's like weirdly looking like Willy Wonka, like in that one Nintendo DSi game, or the Game and Wario game where he looks like a pirate, like like yeah. Oh god. Yeah. All right. Leo is just stepping all over my keyboard at this point.
What's Leo's favorite villain?
Say again.
What's Leo's favorite villain?
I think Leo's. I don't know if he has a favorite villain. I know that the villain for him is a human that would not bestow upon him their body to lay on.
I do have one thing to say about Wario.
Yes.
Like in seriousness.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things about his character is that money is much more of an importance to anyone else, because in Wario Land Shake It, the one for the Wii, it's both an endless bag of money, an endless bag of gold coins, and a princess. And the princess, when trying to show her thankfulness to him, he literally just pushes her or like kicks her out of the way and goes for the money bag.
And then, like, that's what
I didn't think he could be any sexier.
And that's the thing. I'm just like he is the ultimate capitalist, and like in that sense, you want to kick him down a well, but like I don't know, he's also somewhat endearing in that.
Oh no,
sense.
he throws her. He throws her.
Yeah,
That's
he
what I meant to
throws
say.
Yeet.
That's great. I Wario Land Shake It. I actually got like a guide for that, and I played a little bit of it, and I just never went back to it. I want to beat that game because
It's so much fun.
It's such a good art style too. Like it's incredible. Matt just shared a GIF in the chat that says erect, and it's Wario with 2 thumbs up. There.
It's got to be like a different language thing, right?
No.
That's
It's meant to say
No.
perfect. It's an edited screenshot of
Oh,
meant to say
okay,
perfect.
okay.
that is definitely
All right.
edited. Yeah, I don't think that's actually in any of the games. But yeah, well, I have a cat in my arm, so I'm not even gonna be able to stop the recordings at this point. But
Oh, good.
I
also have a dog. Ow! Who just bit my finger? Fucking hell!
no,
Jesus
the
Christ.
animals are coming for us. At
He
this
thought
point.
it was a rib.
Ribs for Emmy.
He thought it was a rib.
No.
All right, we will end it off here. Any final thoughts on Wario?
Wow.
Wah.
Oh, one thing I did note was that in that clip you provided, one of the moves he does where he like butt pounds the ground and the screen shakes and shit falls
Yes.
is in Wario Land 4. I was like,
Oh.
oh, I never understood that. That is so cool.
Yeah. They basically like took his boss battle and they were like, "What if we just made a whole game out of this?" And that's how the Wario Land series essentially was for. It was, and again, like I don't know, man. I love when Nintendo does like goes down these weird rabbit holes. Like let's build on a concept that no one's really thinking that they need, and let's just do it. And it's just like, oh wow, very cool.
I
It's
have a
fun.
canonical question.
Yes.
Yes.
Are Mario and no, sorry, not Mario. Wario and Waluigi, are they canonically brothers, or are they just both
Hey.
opposites of Mario and Luigi that showed up one day?
That's the funniest thing is that like Wario is specifically like Mario's enemy. Waluigi is just a guy.
Yeah.
He just showed up one
Alright.
day.
He just
Mario
showed
says,
up to play tennis.
Okay, because I, in trying to write Chris's intro, was trying to find like really slutty phrases about Wario, and like there's so much more visual smut available than there are actually like
Oh, no.
textual things for me to find. So like I kept stumbling upon very erotic
This is the
like
second time.
Wario and Waluigi things, and I was like, is this like a no stepsister, what are you doing type thing where it's like there's actual like
Wow.
incest happening, or is it like just
No, he's
so
just
they-
a guy.
okay, cool,
They're not
great.
related.
So I feel less violated by it, but there's still, I saw some things today that have changed.
You
me.
have to stop. I think you might have to start thinking from the cap more on the on your intros, just to avoid googling anything from here on out. Because it's
Also,
the second
I
time in
found
a
this,
row.
which just fucking kills me because it's like a Goomba crucifix with Wario on it, and I don't know what that's from, but I think it's really
Huh.
funny.
That's 64 DS. I just don't know. I don't think that's probably someone modded that.
Oh, Chris, I would assume that it was modded. I don't think that they actually had a Goomba crucifix in any like official game, like Nintendo game.
Yeah.
But no, what you ultimately said for your intro was something I just had to make up. But that wasn't the original. I workshopped it a little bit. The original was like a lot more. I was essentially trying to call Wario's balls a garlic bulb and say that you like throat goat it, and I had to like. All right, well that's the coop, guys. Thanks for joining.
Thank you all so much for tuning in.
We were still on air.
Yeah.
We didn't officially end the coop yet.
We'll be back. We'll be back next month. What did I put on the fucking schedule now? Oh, what's the game that was the biggest surprise to you? What's the game that you're like, oh, this is interesting, and you played it, and you're like, oh my god, this shit's amazing. All right.
Oh my god.
Or I mean, biggest surprise could also be like, oh wow, this game is disappointing as fuck. We tend not to be negative, but I'll let you do it if you feel like you want to talk about it. So either way, however you want to.
Can it also be like something that was surprising that happened in the game that you didn't see coming?
Yeah, 100%. Biggest surprise in gaming could be the game itself, or it could be something in the game. We'll leave it as vague and open as possible.
Okay, I know what I'm talking about.
Okay, sounds good. Well then, with that, folks. Oh, now you leave. Now you leave me. Right as I'm ending the podcast. All right, whatever.
Well, he wants you to be able to actually like stop the recording.
Yeah, there you go. All right, folks. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I hope you all enjoyed. Tell us what your favorite villains is, and until next time, game on. The Gaming Coop is brought to you by Team Chaos Productions. Follow us on Twitter at The Gaming Coop, or follow our other work at Team Chaos Pods.